You head to the electronics aisle ready to score a 4K QLED steal, and there it is. Giant screen, vibrant colors, a red sales sticker staring at you. The display looks incredible. The price seems too good to pass up, so you load it into your cart feeling like you just won the lottery. But what if I told you that many of those QLED 4K smart TVs are retailer-only versions with cut-down internals, weak dimming, or buggy firmware that'll have you pulling your hair out within weeks? See, demo mode brightness can make a cheap panel dazzle under those harsh store lights, but at home, it collapses. Washed out HDR, murky blacks, stuttery smart menus that freeze mid-episode. It's like buying a parachute stitched with shiny thread. Looks pretty until you actually jump. Today, we're ranking 8 major QLED TV brands you'll actually find in big box stores. From the worst traps that'll leave you with buyer's remorse to the ones that are actually worth your hard-earned money. Let's get into it. Number 8. Insignia. You'll see Insignia on every end cap and clearance rack. Walk into any major electronics store during a sale, and there's a 99% chance you'll spot that blue and white logo screaming, "Affordable 4K QLED." Here's the truth. These are mostly budget-class QLED panels with compromised quality and unstable software. And I'm not just talking about minor quirks. I'm talking about issues that affect your everyday viewing experience. First off, the local dimming is weak. Really weak. When you're watching anything with darker content, scenes that should have depth and shadow detail just look flat and washed out. The HDR peak brightness? Forget about it. You're getting numbers that barely qualify as HDR at all. So when you pop on that action movie or that moody drama series, you're missing half the visual impact the director intended. Then there's the smart integration. Most Insignia QLEDs rely on entry-level Fire TV builds. Now, Fire TV can be great on higher-end models, but on these budget builds, you're looking at frequent sluggishness, apps that take forever to load, and occasional crashes that force you to unplug the whole TV and start over. Not exactly the smooth streaming experience you were promised. And let's talk reliability. The buyer reviews paint a clear picture here. You've got a pattern of great price leads to short lifespan, running through a huge share of owner experiences. Forum threads are filled with people complaining about early failures, remote control issues, firmware problems that never get fixed. It's a gamble, and the odds aren't in your favor. Bottom line, this looks good under store lights, but not on your wall. If budget is your only concern, it seems tempting, but wait until you see what's next. Number 7. Scepter. You may have never heard of Scepter if you don't hunt the ultra-cheap rack, and there's a reason for that. This brand lives in the absolute basement of the TV market, where prices are so low you start wondering what corners got cut. And the answer is, pretty much all of them. The panel quality is extremely basic. We're talking limited color depth that makes everything look slightly off, very poor HDR implementation that adds almost nothing to your picture quality, minimal dimming zones, and viewing angles so narrow that anyone sitting more than 15 degrees off-center is watching a faded, distorted version of whatever's on screen. The smart software situation is even worse. Many Scepter models have minimal smart features or none at all. You're getting limited streaming support, basic firmware that rarely gets updated, and an interface that feels like it was designed in 2010. Want to use all your favorite streaming apps? Better buy a separate streaming stick because the built-in options are going to disappoint you fast. And here's where it gets really rough. Numerous reports of early dead pixel problems or complete unit failures. We're not talking about 1 or 2 isolated cases. There's a consistent pattern of these TVs developing issues within the first year. Dead pixels appear out of nowhere. Backlights fail. The whole screen just stops working. Look, budget buyers often accept the "you get what you pay for" philosophy. But even by those standards, long-term reliability is almost non-existent with Scepter. If you thought you were saving money, think again. You're not buying a living room TV. You're buying an oversized desktop monitor that might last 6 months if you're lucky. Cheaper price tags? Yes, but you're somehow still worse off. Now, let's climb slightly up the ladder. Number 6. Owen Walmart's own Owen brand is often pitched as a steal for 4K QLED. You'll see these models prominently displayed, sometimes even with mini LED backlighting, and the price tags seem almost absurd for what you're supposedly getting. But here's the reality. This is a mixed bag at best. Decent for occasional use? Maybe. But there's way too much variance in quality control and reliability to trust these as your primary television. Some SKUs deliver acceptable brightness levels. You might get one that actually performs reasonably well for the money, but many others suffer from backlight uniformity issues where parts of the screen look brighter or dimmer than others, or uneven dimming that creates distracting halos around bright objects on dark backgrounds. It's a lottery, and you won't know what you've got until you unbox it at home. The Smart OS is usually Roku or Walmart's own build, which is passable on paper, but user reports tell a different story. You've got remote control glitches where buttons stop responding, firmware hiccups that cause random reboots or freeze the interface. It's frustrating when you just want to sit down and watch something after a long day. Here's what really concerns me. Larger panels in particular show a higher rate of quality control problems. Dead zones where sections of backlight stop working. Backlight bleed that creates bright patches in the corners during dark scenes. These aren't minor cosmetic issues. They're deal breakers for anyone who actually cares about picture quality. The reviews are completely polarized. You've got one group praising the value, saying they got lucky with a good unit. But there's a non-trivial share warning against long-term use, sharing stories of failures after 3 months, 6 months, a year. That kind of inconsistency means you're rolling the dice every time you buy. Affordable? Absolutely. Consistently good? Far from it. It's better than the pure bargain bin options we just covered, but still too risky for my recommendation. Let's move into mid-range territory where things start getting more interesting. Number 5. Toshiba. Toshiba is a recognizable name with decades of history in the electronics game. So when you see their QLED deals, you might assume you're getting that legacy quality. But many of these modern QLED models carry hidden compromises, especially on HDR performance, dimming capabilities, and Smart OS polish. Don't get me wrong, Toshiba makes solid mid-budget QLED options. But certain SKUs cut corners in ways that aren't obvious until you get the TV home and start using it daily. The SDR upscaling and 4K picture quality look decent enough. For regular cable TV or streaming in standard dynamic range, you'll probably be satisfied. But when you switch to HDR content, that's where the cracks show. The brightness peaks are often underwhelming compared to competitors at the same price point, and the local dimming doesn't have enough zones to create the contrast you expect from HDR. So those stunning sunsets or those dark space scenes just don't have the same impact. On the software side, most Toshiba QLEDs run Fire TV or other licensed operating systems, but the implementation sometimes feels unstable. User reports mention HDMI handshake issues where your TV doesn't properly recognize your game console or cable box, forcing you to unplug and replug cables constantly. App crashes that kick you out midstream. These aren't universal problems, but they happen often enough to be concerning. Reliability-wise, Toshiba is definitely better than the budget brands we covered earlier. But complaints around remote controls dying early or hardware faults developing within the first couple years still pop up regularly in owner forums. The sentiment is really mixed here. You've got many buyers who are content in the short term, happy they saved some money and got a big screen. But you don't find as many trustworthy long-term owners singing praises 3 or 4 years down the line. My verdict? This is a cautious middle ground option. If you go with Toshiba, you need to know exactly what SKU you're buying, check reviews for that specific model number, and understand that you might be trading some performance and longevity for that lower price tag. So far? Not great. We've covered 5 brands, and honestly, the worst may be behind us. Or so you'd hope. But here's what you need to understand. Retailers often push exclusive model numbers so they can drop costs without shouting it out loud. That $300 price tag you're seeing? Sometimes it's funded by weak panels, stripped-down backlights, or cheap firmware builds that prioritize profit over performance. These aren't accidents. These are deliberate choices made to hit certain price points while maintaining margins. And if you don't know what to look for, you're the one paying the price after you get home. If this has already saved you from a bad QLED deal, hit subscribe. The next 4 might actually shock you because we're finally getting into territory where these TVs can actually deliver on their promises. Number 4. Hisense. Hisense is a name that promises more, and honestly, it often delivers. But not without some serious caveats you need to know about before you buy. This is an upper mid-range QLED brand with entry-level premium features, and on paper, the value proposition looks incredible. Strong panel hardware, good price-to-performance ratio, specs that rival brands charging 2 or 3 times as much. Let's start with what Hisense does right. Many of their SKUs have higher brightness output and fuller array backlights compared to similarly priced competitors. We're talking solid HDR performance, decent color accuracy, and local dimming that actually works. For movie watching, gaming, or binge watching your favorite shows, the picture quality can be genuinely impressive. The price is often significantly below what Samsung or LG charge for comparable features. We're talking savings of $200, $300, sometimes even $500 depending on screen size. On paper, it looks like you've found the holy grail of TV deals. But here's where things get complicated. The firmware history. Hisense has a track record of occasional regressions, meaning software updates that actually make your TV worse instead of better. Owners report color shifts where suddenly everything looks too blue or too warm. HDMI issues where certain features stop working properly with your connected devices. Dimming glitches where the backlight behavior changes in ways you didn't ask for. And here's the really frustrating part. These issues don't show up right away. You might love your TV for the first few months, leave automatic updates turned on like most people do, and then one day wake up to a noticeably different picture quality or new bugs that weren't there before. The credibility pattern is interesting. Owners who avoid early firmware updates and carefully manage when and how they update their TV often praise Hisense. They talk about getting premium performance at mid-range prices and being thrilled with their purchase. But late updaters, people who just let the TV update itself whenever new firmware drops, sometimes deeply regret their buying decision. So what's my take? Great potential for value, absolutely. If you're tech-savvy enough to manage updates carefully, research each firmware version before installing, and buy at the right time when the software is stable, Hisense can be an excellent choice. But if you want a TV that just works without you needing to become a firmware detective, you might want to keep looking. Now, the top 3. Best value, best performance, best reliability. These are the brands that won't let you down. Number 3. TCL, especially their 6 Series and R Series QLED and Mini LED models, is often the sleeper pick that reviewers recommend but average shoppers overlook. And that's a shame, because they offer a genuinely good balance of price, performance, and reliability when you pick the right SKU. This is a strong all-rounder for mid to upper mid budgets. You're not getting absolute top-tier performance, but you're getting way more than you'd expect for the money. The peak brightness is competitive with models that cost significantly more. The HDR implementation actually adds noticeable impact to supported content. Whether you're streaming movies, watching cable, or gaming on your PlayStation or Xbox, the picture quality holds up well across different use cases. Colors pop without looking oversaturated. Motion handling is smooth enough for sports and action movies. Gaming features like variable refresh rate and low input lag make it a solid choice for console gamers. The Smart OS situation is genuinely good here. TCL uses either Roku TV or Google TV depending on the model, and both implementations are snappy and stable compared to cheaper alternatives. Apps load quickly. The interface responds without lag. Updates tend to improve things rather than break them. It's the kind of experience where you just pick up the remote and watch something without fighting the TV first. Reliability is decent overall. Not perfect, mind you, but decent. Some users note backlight blooming in very dark scenes, where bright objects create visible halos in the surrounding darkness. Black levels in a completely dark room aren't quite as deep as you'd get from OLED. But for most real-world viewing conditions, especially in rooms with some ambient light, these are minor compromises. The credibility here is strong. Many professional reviewers consistently highlight TCL as offering the best bang for your buck in mid-range QLEDs. Owner satisfaction is high. Long-term reliability reports are generally positive. You're not hearing widespread complaints about early failures or major defects. My verdict? This is a safe, solid pick, especially if you're a price-savvy buyer who wants good performance without spending flagship money. If you're choosing between TCL and some of the cheaper options we covered earlier, spend the extra $100 or $200. You'll actually enjoy what you bought. Now, we're finally getting to the ones that actually earn the QLED hype. These top two brands are where marketing, promises, and real-world performance actually meet. Number 2. Vizio, particularly their P-Series Quantum and Quantum X models, is the underdog brand that consistently punches way above its weight class. And I mean that genuinely. This is excellent HDR performance and solid build quality that often undercuts premium brands while offering similar or sometimes even better picture quality. If you've been ignoring Vizio because it sounds like a budget brand, you're missing out on some of the best value in the entire TV market. Let's talk performance. The peak brightness on higher-end Vizio QLED models is legitimately strong. We're talking numbers that compete directly with Samsung and Sony models costing significantly more. The color volume is rich and accurate. The local dimming is typically effective, with enough zones to create real contrast without excessive blooming. When you watch HDR content, you're seeing what the director intended. Bright highlights actually pop. Dark shadows maintain detail. It's the full experience. The SmartOS performance is adequate. Not amazing, not terrible, just adequate. Vizio uses their SmartCast system, which had issues in earlier years but has stabilized considerably with recent firmware builds. Most of the bugs and quirks that plagued older models have been addressed. It's not quite as polished as Roku or Google TV, but it gets the job done without major frustrations. Here's what really matters. Reliability and owner satisfaction are high compared with most mid-tier brands. You're seeing consistently positive after-sale reviews. People describe getting better results than they expected. Performance that exceeds the price point. TVs that still work great 3 or 4 years later. That's what you want to hear. The value proposition here is almost unbeatable. You're getting flagship-adjacent performance at upper mid-range prices. For many people, especially those who care about picture quality but don't want to spend $3,000 or $4,000, Vizio hits the perfect sweet spot. My verdict? This is probably the best value-focused QLED you can get without overpaying. If you want premium performance but you're working with a realistic budget, Vizio should be at the top of your shortlist. But there's one brand that still does it better. Let's talk about number 1. Number 1. Samsung. The brand that essentially created the QLED category and still leads the pack in almost every meaningful way. Their Neo QLED and flagship 2025 line represents what QLED technology should be when it's done right. This is built-to-last performance with high brightness, great color, polished software, and consistent reliability. When people think of QLED, this is what they should be thinking of, not the bargain basement alternatives we covered at the bottom of this list. The flagship Samsung QLED models deliver excellent SDR and HDR brightness that makes content look stunning in any lighting condition. You can watch during the day with sunlight streaming through your windows, and the picture still looks vibrant and clear. Deep blacks by QLED standards, which means they're not quite OLED level, but they're far better than most competing LED technologies. Anti-reflection coatings that reduce glare and improve viewing in bright rooms. These features combine to create an ideal experience whether you're watching in a bright living room or a dark home theater. The SmartOS, Tizen, is smooth, feature-rich, and kept consistently up to date. Samsung actually maintains their software long-term. You're not stuck with a frozen-in-time interface that never improves. Gaming features are best in class if you're a console gamer. Streaming apps work flawlessly. Everything just feels premium and polished. Build quality and panel consistency are strong across Samsung's lineup. Returns due to hardware faults are comparatively rare. You're not playing the quality control lottery like you are with cheaper brands. When you buy a Samsung QLED, you know what you're getting, and it's going to be good. The credibility here is overwhelming. Widely praised by professional reviewers and regular buyers alike for premium feel, reliability, and long-term value retention. Yes, you pay more upfront, but you're getting a TV that will still be delivering excellent performance 5 or 6 years from now. That's value that extends far beyond the initial purchase price. My verdict: if you want a QLED that actually lives up to the hype, this is it. Samsung earned their position at the top of this ranking through consistent quality, reliable performance, and a track record of building TVs that last. You've seen all 8 tiers now, from bargain bin traps to legitimate QLED contenders that deliver on their promises. On one end, you've got cheap models that look impressive under those bright store lights but completely falter once you get them home and start using them daily. On the other end, you've got a few select models that genuinely deliver on brightness, HDR performance, and longevity. Here's the bottom line, and this is important. Big retailers and their flashy QLED 4K labels aren't the problem. Buying the wrong model is the problem. If you ignore model numbers, don't research the panel type, and skip checking firmware history, you could easily end up with a glorified bargain basement monitor masquerading as a premium television. You'll be frustrated, disappointed, and out several $100s with no good options for recourse. But get it right. Actually read reviews, check exact SKUs, verify what you're buying, and pick from the trusted brands we covered in the top half of this ranking, and a QLED can absolutely be a smart, long-lasting choice. You can get incredible picture quality, excellent smart features, and years of reliable performance without needing to buy an OLED that costs twice as much. The difference between a great TV purchase and a terrible one often comes down to just doing a bit of homework before you buy. Spend 20 minutes researching instead of impulse buying at the store, and you'll thank yourself for years to come. So here's what I want you to do. Drop a comment with the exact model number you're thinking of buying. Tell me the brand, the size, the SKU, everything. I'll tell you whether it's a trap you should avoid or a keeper that's actually worth your money. And if you don't want to get burned on a bad QLED purchase ever again, hit that subscribe button right now so you don't miss future deep dives where we break down exactly what you need to know before spending your hard-earned cash. Because at the end of the day, you deserve a TV that actually works as advertised, that delivers the performance you paid for, and that lasts long enough to be worth the investment. Don't settle for less.